everybody. Good morning. It's about 5 after, and I want to be respectful of your time. So we are going to go ahead and jump in. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Lisa Levine with Dementia Alliance of North Carolina, the one that's been sending you all those emails. And we appreciate you joining us today to speak with Melanie Bunn. We're going to talk about the progression of dementia. And while I know that that's a very involved topic, we're going to try and tackle as much as we can in an hour. We want to thank our corporate sponsors for this event. ESI is one, and Aware Senior Care is our other one. So we appreciate them making this free hour discussion possible. So we are talking about the progression of dementia today. And if anybody has any specific questions or information that they would like us to address, you are more than welcome to go ahead and drop that into the chat box. And we will be able to, I know a lot of you submitted pre-questions, but sometimes we have things in mind, and then as a caregiver, stuff changes over time. There were some questions I know about, does dementia plateau at any particular point? Is there any regularity with how dementia progresses, any predictions that we can make, that kind of thing. So that was another chat. And then we did have some questions about some specific behaviors that I know Melanie has that information on. So hi, Melanie, how are you?
I am well. I'm sorry I'm so late. Mom things. So, I have a welcome, a bio sketch that I use that says that, Melanie is a nurse and a consultant and an educator and a this and that and a daughter and a mom. And it was the mom hat this morning. So, or the daughter hat this morning. So I'm so sorry but thank you for your patience. And Lisa, thank you for getting us going and for your grace.
Oh, of course. We all have mom and daughter things. Everyone on here is a woman right now, so I know we've all had daughter issues. So we do have a couple more people joining us, but Melanie, if you want to jump in, you are more than welcome to go right ahead.
Thank you. And these things never happen in a time during your 2-minute break between. So thanks to everybody for coming. So this is one of my very favorite things to talk about is progression. And you would think that it wouldn't be, because most of the times the way it's done, it's all sad. And most of the time, the way it's done is it's all loss. And, I get that. I get that because it is sad and there are losses. But the way I look at it is, if I can't do anything about something that's gone, so if mom was a wonderful pianist, so mom could play the piano just with incredible skill and gift. But now mom has dementia, mom can't play the piano anymore. But if mom still really loves music, then that's something I can do something about. I can do something about mom's love of music, bringing joy into her life and bringing happiness. And we can share that. And so we can have something that connects us and that we're together. So if we only focus on what's not there, it's sad, and it doesn't help. It doesn't give me anything I can do. So my focus is more on preserved abilities than losses. Now we're going to talk about losses and we're going to talk about change, but we really are going to look at it from the perspective of, what do people still have? So I'm going to wonder if some of y'all have the ability to turn on your videos, because I love talking to Lisa, but Lisa can talk to me anytime. So I would really love to see, oh, hi, Jean and Patricia, hi. It's so now I know, oh, I recognize people. So yay. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. That way I know that there are real people there that I know. And so it's good to see y'all. So we're gonna talk about, hey, we're gonna talk about change across the spectrum, but we're gonna talk about it from the perspective of what's still there. So I use a model that is developed from an occupational therapy model. And I used that model because a friend of mine, Teepa Snow, introduced me to it. And we liked it because exactly what we talked about. You know, it focuses not just on what people can't do, but what people can do. Then Teepa did something that was inspired. And what she did that was inspired is instead of using the numbers that were already assigned to the changes, instead of keeping the focus on those numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, she changed it and made it so each of the levels, each of the progression states is labeled after a gem that reflects some of those preserved abilities, some of those things that are still true about people at that gem state. So just a couple of things to understand about it. Do this with me. Start here and go there. So start up here in the corner and go there. So with Alzheimer's disease, that's kind of how, so start here and go there. With Alzheimer's disease, that's how the structure of the brain changes. You know, it kind of slowly across time loses connection, slowly across time, more and more cells aren't connected or they die. So structurally, this is what happens. But here's the secret. There's more to dementia than the structure. They're the chemicals. And so do this with me. The chemicals fluctuate. So the chemicals might fluctuate over an hour. The chemicals might fluctuate over a day. The chemicals might fluctuate over a lifetime. They're going the same pattern, but there's a lot more variation. So that's why people living with dementia might be able to do something in the morning. So you might look at when we get through these gem state levels, you might say, oh, my mom is a diamond in the morning, but you know, by bedtime, she's kind of acting like an amber. And that's because these chemicals fluctuate. So the chemicals fluctuate by drop in the chat or unmute and say out some of the things that you think might make the chemicals fluctuate and make the person look like they can do more sometimes than they can others, or look like they can't do things for one person they can for another. What are some of those times or things you've noticed, some of those patterns you've noticed about when people can do things and when they can't? Yes, Jean, you unmuted.
Yeah, for me, I think when they're rested, when they're well rested, they can do things when they're tired.
Okay, so that's a great example when people are well rested. So when people are feeling well rested, maybe earlier in the day, or when they're feeling well rested after something that's just been pleasant and relaxing. When people are well rested, their brains work better and they can function better. They can do more during those times. So that's a great one. Because is that true for us as well? Yeah, that's true for us as well. And so one of the kind of interesting things is we have a lot more in common with people living with dementia than we do different from them. So just like when I'm well rested, I'm more creative. When I'm well rested, I've got more energy. I'm more tolerant and more patient. That's also true for people living with dementia. So when else do you notice people can do better, or when are things get harder for people living with dementia? Jean said well rested. I said time of day, kind of. Have you noticed some fluctuations with time of day that might have to do with being rested or might not? Are there certain times of day that seem to be harder for people living with dementia, and what are some of those times?
The late
Melanie, it
evenings.
seems like sometimes late afternoon or evening, or even very early morning if the person is not a morning person.
So Lisa's saying late afternoon for some people, evening for some people, early morning for some people. Yeah, Bridget, I saw you unmuted as well. What were you going to add?
Just exactly what Lisa said.
Yeah,
Mostly like late evenings, very early mornings.
yeah. So late afternoon, early evening, early in the morning, and either of those could be, I've always been a morning person, I've never been a morning person, or it can be if I've got arthritis. Certain kinds of arthritis hurt really bad in the morning. They hurt really bad in the morning. Certain kinds of arthritis hurt really bad after you've been up all day. So it might be something to do with pain. It might be. So who in this room with me in this Zoom room is kind of bossy? Is there anybody? Oh, I know Lisa and Bridget and Patricia admits to being bossy. So Lisa, I know Lisa, but I'm wondering if Bridget will play with me for a little bit. Will you mess with me for a little bit? So Lori, you unmuted. What did you want to say?
Oh, I was going to say my husband would tell me that I'm extremely bossy.
So that's a good indicator, and sometimes people who've never been bossy, when they get into that care partnering relationship, get kind of bossy. And some people have been bossy all their lives, and some people have just been perceived as being bossy because we are always right, and when you're always right, people think that you're bossy. So Bridget, if you'll just unmute for a minute. So Bridget's giggling. So take a deep breath and kind of giggle a minute, get Bridget.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So do you do this for a job or do you do this with family?
For work.
For work. Okay. So I am a person living with dementia. What is something you would tell me to do?
I could ask you, well, let's sit down and have breakfast. Are you hungry?
I've already had breakfast.
Okay.
No,
Well,
you said you were good at arguing. Try to argue with me.
oh, argue with you. Okay. Um, okay. Um, well, all I know is your wife said it's time to sit down and eat. So we
I've
need to
already
sit
had
down
my
and
stinking breakfast, you bossy woman. So now you can see where Bridget's just trying to what?
follow directions.
She's just trying to stay out of trouble. She's follow directions. She wants to keep her job, but you also want what, Bridget? You
Compliance
what
or
you want what you want me to get breakfast, right?
oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I want
but
your
that's your main thing. That was so main for Bridget. She didn't even mention it. That was so important to her. She didn't even mention that part. So what we're talking about is we're talking about people who are at that. Y'all are on a good day. Y'all are sapphires. So on a good day, y'all are sapphires. You're true blue. You can be flexible. You can be creative. You can adapt. You can respond. You can see other people's perspective. You are the epitome of ability, sapphires. What I'm doing is the person living with dementia who's in that diamond state. So put your hands together. It's your birthday. This year for your birthday, when you open up your box, you get a diamond. Are you excited? Yeah, everybody's real excited about that diamond. Woohoo! Because diamonds are what? They're shiny and they're bright and they sparkle. And especially if you put a diamond in the right setting, if you put a diamond in a beautiful ring or you put a diamond in a beautiful necklace, it sparkles and it shines and it just shows off. But if you put a diamond in a box, is it very sparkly? It's not. So diamonds are people with dementia who can sparkle and shine in the right situation, but they also have the other characteristic of diamonds, and the other characteristic of diamonds is they can cut you and they can be really hard. So if I have a routine, do y'all have routines? Any of y'all have routines? So I have a routine. So I am used to getting up every morning and taking my shower and getting dressed and coming down and having breakfast. So if I get up in the morning and I'm downstairs, I'm having breakfast, and then somebody tries to tell me it's time for my shower, what am I going to say? I've already had my shower. And what's the person who cares about me going to say? You need to have your shower. And they're going to try to prove it to me. So they may take me upstairs and they may show me that the shower isn't wet. They may show me that the towels are dry. They try to use, put your hand right here. They try to use their logic and reason to headbutt me into thinking that they're right and I'm wrong. But what is one of the things that is true about almost all human beings? We like to be right. And I especially like to be right about things I'm in control of, and things I'm in control of, my body and the way my day goes. And so for people in this diamond state, they get very rigid, not because they're stubborn and hard to get along with, but just because in this stage of dementia, they can't get new stuff in. And when you can't get new stuff in, what are you left with? The old stuff. So some of the challenges in this time, the biggest challenge is a lot of times we don't even realize the person's got dementia. Because in this very early state, if as long as they're doing things the way they've always done them, we think they're fine. So as long as they're doing, I'm cooking in my kitchen, y'all think I'm fine. As long as I'm living in my, y'all think I'm fine. It's when things start to change. It's when I get a new medicine and I don't start the new medicine because it's different. It's when I get a new TV remote and the TV is broken and it's always broken, but it's that I can't get new stuff in to learn how to do new stuff. So these diamonds are very rigid. They're very stubborn, and they don't do well with change. So what do we come in and try to do? We come in and we try to change everything. We come in and we say, I now have to remind you when it's time to eat and take your medicine. I'm now in charge of your money. I'm now in charge of when you can drive, when you can't drive. I'm now in charge of your life. And what happens when we do that? It builds conflict. So do this, put up 5 fingers like this and put up 3 fingers like this. Now try to get them to match up. And it doesn't. You've always got 2 fingers left out. If you do them in the middle or if you do them, they don't match. And so what happens in this gem state is we try to have our expectations are that people do things the way they used to do them, how they used to do them. But the person living with dementia, they've only got this much to work with. So which can we change? Can we grow 2 more fingers over here? Can we grow more brain cells? Can we grow more? We can't. So what we've got to do is change our expectations over here so we can match it up. Now, we can try to do that by being a bully and being a bossy person. And we don't think we're doing that, but we use this part of our brain that works and we try to explain to people. So Bridget, if you'll unmute for a minute, Bridget. Bridget's going to try to explain to me why I need to sit down and have my breakfast. So give it a try, Bridget.
So because you take your medication right after your food, you have to have something on your stomach. So could we please try just to sit down and have a little bit?
I've already had my breakfast. And so now what she's doing is she thinks she's trying to explain, but she's using the part of my brain that's not working. So she's trying to get this to work when it won't work anymore by using logic and reason. So we've got to figure out a way for Bridget to help me eat something because I need to eat, because I need to take my breakfast, but it can't be using logic and reason explaining. Now, one of the other things that's also really true about most human beings is most human beings like to be helpful, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Not everybody, and there's some lazy people out there, and there's some people out there who want everybody, but not most people. Most people like to help. So if Bridget comes to me and Bridget says, oh, Melanie, I cooked these muffins and I'm not sure if they're as good as the ones I cooked last time. See if you can find a way to get me to eat a muffin, Bridget.
Okay, I'm not sure if they're as good as the last time. So I tell you what, I'm gonna cut it in half. You take half and I'll have half, the other half, and we'll have a contest. And you tell me, we'll decide which half tastes better. It's the same
Okay.
muffin, but I don't think they'll get that.
Maybe not. Or maybe she says, would you try these and tell me if it's as good as the ones we had last week? Would you give me your opinion? Would you try these? So what is going to be the result of that?
They may be willing to help to do it because you're asking for their help and not telling them what to do and giving an order.
Yeah. And so once I try that muffin, what am I like? What is my body going to realize? I haven't had breakfast. I'm
Yeah.
hungry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm going to eat that muffin. And so now Bridget got what she wanted. I got what I want. My wife got what she wanted. Everybody's happy. So in this diamond state, the issue is not to get into that pushing. Let go of needing to be right. Now, put your hands together. It's another birthday. This year, you open your present and you get an emerald. Is anybody happy to get an emerald? Lisa's happy to get an emerald. Some of y'all prefer the diamond. Oh, Jean's happy to get an emerald. What about you, Ellen? Do you like emeralds? She says, I might sell it and get me a diamond, but she's still glad to have it, right? Okay. So green on the stoplight stands for go. And so people with this green emerald, these are people who are going. And they might be going physically, and they might be going emotionally, and they might be going back in the past. So in this emerald state is when people are remembering things the way they used to be. And so if I'm looking for my son, who am I looking for? Not the big one you see at UNC Chapel Hill if you are friends with me on Facebook. You don't see the big one who's standing at the old well. I'm looking for that toddler boy you had to keep your eye on every minute or else he'd be gone. So the challenge is at this point, people are remembering things the way they used to be. They're having trouble with other kinds of abilities. So they're having trouble doing things in the right order. So if my clothes are out, I'm supposed to get dressed, I'm just going to pick up and put on whatever's there. And maybe I don't take the clothes on I've got off because I didn't know to do that. And maybe I wind up with my underwear on the top because that was what was on the bottom. So they need help with organizing themselves and help with sequencing for those kinds of things. So at this gem state, this green gem state, kind of the main mistakes we try to make are trying to bring them back into our world by telling them our truth. And so your truth is Matthew's a freshman in college. My truth is Matthew's a little boy. And I actually just did a Monday with Melanie thing, talking about this idea of how, so that should be out sometime fairly soon, about how to not argue, how to find the connection with the emotion. So you really miss Matthew. Tell me about Matthew. Oh, I've seen a picture of him. So you don't say my husband's dead. You don't say my husband is coming to get me. You say your husband, such a great man, such a hard worker. And then we talk about what we can both agree on. So that's that emerald stage. So you kind of know that. And the Mondays with Melanie are, oh, thank you, Lisa. Lisa's on top of it. So the third level we're going to talk about, we talked about sapphires. We didn't talk about them much. We talked about diamonds who are rigid and shine in the right setting. We talked about emeralds that are moving back in the past, and green is for go. Put your hands together. It's your birthday. Open your birthday present. This year for your birthday, you get a piece of amber. And you go, well, I must have really messed up this year because amber is not, it's got a bug in it. That's really not my idea of a really jolly birthday present. But the amber is very symbolic of that bug being stuck in time, because amber forms around an insect that gets stuck, and it traps a moment. So the people in this amber state are trapped in this moment. And that means they're not really looking to things in the future. They're not really remembering things in the past. It's just right now. And so the kinds of things that they get very interested in are things that they can touch and feel. So they touch things and they work with them and they put things in and they wrap. Oh, yeah. And some of y'all are going, would she please stop doing that? That's loud and it's annoying. And I can still do this because people in the amber state still have the ability to use their fingers and to work with their fingers. So I might be changing how I use my fingers. I might be changing from, instead of being able to use my toothbrush like this, I might only be able to hold it like this. I might be losing I might comb this part of my hair over and over and over and over and not ever get to the back part. But I can still do things. And if you help me and cue me, I might be able to get some of these others. If you touch back here, I might be able to get some of those other things. So they were still able to kind of use tools early on, forks and spoons, getting kind of hard with the forks and the knives, but the spoon they can still use. And we forget one of the tools that we use a lot are these fingers. So people can still use their fingers. So I might still be able to use my fingers to eat when I'm losing some of the ability to use some of the utensils and some of those other tools. Um, So we've got some of that. So that can be kind of working with things, manipulating things, interacting with things, and they're still very busy. They're still doing a lot of things, but the yellow doesn't just stand for amber. The yellow stands for safety, because yellow on the stoplight stands for warning or caution. And so at this amber stage, people are starting to really be at risk for things. So maybe I find this, and maybe it's not itchy like mine is. Maybe it's got stuff in there that looks like this. And what does that kind of look like? That kind of looks like candy. And so what I might do is I might try to eat that because it kind of looked like candy. I have all kinds of pretty colored pins right here. This might actually look like, a piece of candy or a lollipop or something. So people get very interested in using the parts of their body that have a lot of nerve endings. So that's your fingers and your hands, your mouth, your lips, and your tongue. So people like to chew, and they like to put things in their mouth, and they like to sing da da ba 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 da, and they'll say things over and over and over again because it feels good. Hey, what we doing? Hey, what we doing? Hey, what we doing? Hey, what we do? What we doing? What we doing? So they'll, not because they really want you to tell them what they're doing, but because it feels good. Other parts of the body with lots of nerve endings, soles of the feet. So people like to walk around. So a lot of people in this gym state and the next one will walk and walk and walk and walk and walk, but they don't get the message from their body that it's time to stop. So they walk and walk and walk and walk and walk, and then they get to the point where they stop because they're falling down with exhaustion. So they don't get those messages from their brain, from their body to their brain, from their brain to their body, that it's time to rest. So they just keep going. The fourth part of the body, lots of nerve endings. We talked about mouth, lips, and tongue. We talked about fingers and hands. We talked about sole of the feet. Other part of your body, lots of nerve endings, genitalia. There are lots of nerve endings there. And so that might mean I get very interested in those parts of my body, or it might mean I don't want anybody to have anything to do with that part of my body. So care then, because people are needing some hands-on helping at this point. Because people in the diamond, they can still do stuff by themselves. People in the emerald, if you put it in the right order and you cue them and sequence them, they can still do it. In this amber set, people might just be, brushing my teeth. I might just go, where'd my toothbrush go? I might just go and done. And so you actually have to have some hand-on helping. So, that's just when I might actually start using my person's hand in my hand to start helping with some care. And that might be another thing we do sometime, is work on that strategy and approach. So I might have to start helping, but I don't want to help by just putting my hands on people and doing stuff. I want to help in a way that doesn't feel quite as confrontational and kind of in people's faces. So the next gem state, put your hands back together, it's your birthday again, and open your box. And this year for your birthday, you get a ruby. Now, I'm wondering, so Natalie, are you a big fan of rubies? Oh, Natalie's happy about the ruby. She's excited about that. What about you, Brenda? Is that ruby looking pretty good to you? She's going, yeah, we're not even sure about Ellen. Ellen was excited about the diamond, but I've just kind of lost Ellen's interest since the diamonds went away. So, so she, are you saying you would put up with a ruby, Ellen? Okay, she's not that picky, and she can sell it and buy another diamond if she wants to. So that's where she's going, yeah, I heard that part for sure. So ruby, red on the stoplight stands for stop. And so people in this gem state are really starting to slow down, and many things are stopping. Some of the things that are stopping is this fine motor ability. And so this ability to use their fingers. So they can't eat with their fingers anymore. They have to have hands on. And so the way I was helping with teeth brushing, I can help the person at this ruby level with eating and washing and stuff as well. They're getting very sensitive around their mouths and lips and tongue, and they're losing some of that ability, the fine motor there, to be able to chew and swallow and to bolus stuff. And so this is when people they'll chew stuff and it kind of gets stuck down here in the sides of their mouth, or they choke on stuff, or they chew stuff for a while and then they spit it out because they're not able to do this with me. Because when you chew, you actually grind. So every time you chew, you actually grind your food. So what happens when you lose that fine motor is, instead of grinding, you start just chomping. And so what would happen if you took a piece of steak and instead of grinding it up, you just chomp it? Is it ever really going to it's not ever going to get to something that you can swap. It's not ever going to get, so people chomp and chomp and chomp and chomp, and then they spit it out, or they just keep chewing. It doesn't help. So they're losing some of that fine motor. They're losing some of the fine motor in their feet. And so what starts to happen is they start to walk with their legs really far apart. And they start to walk kind of bent up like this, and they don't swing their arms. And they're having other changes in their vision. So their walking becomes really hard. So they're having trouble, bless you, Lisa. So they're having trouble with getting in and out of chairs or in and out of the bed, because they can't coordinate how to do that. And because we try to get them to move in ways that are the opposite of how they really move themselves. So we try to get people to stand up. We pull on their arm, and that doesn't have anything to do with standing up. The way you stand up, if you push back, the way you stand up is you lean forward. And so to get somebody to stand up, what we have to do is get them to lean forward, and then they'll stand up. And then we get them to lean forward and they'll sit down. Do that with me from where you're standing. Just kind of close your eyes and put your hand on your table or something, and just notice what your body does. Lean forward, lean forward, lean forward, and you'll automatically kind of stand up and straighten up, or lean forward, lean forward, lean forward, and you get to a point and you automatically kind of sit down. But none of you did this to try to stand up. So those kinds of things don't help with helping people move around in a way that makes sense. So people at red on the stoplight stands for stop. Things are starting to stop. This is also when I'm having conversations about stopping. So I'm having conversations about medications and about procedures and things. And then put your hands out together. It's your birthday. Open your box, and this year for your birthday you get an oyster shell. Now, more than just Ellen is annoyed and disappointed at this one. Everybody's kind of going, well, that's a crappy present. Why would you bother giving me an oyster shell? Because are oyster shells very pretty? No, oyster shells are not pretty. Are oyster shells, do they shine? No, they're not pretty. They don't shine. They're hard, they're rough, they're gray, they're brown. They're not very valuable. But what you notice when you take your oyster shell out is that when you open it, there's a pearl there. And that pearl is glowing, and that pearl is lustrous, and that pearl has value. And so even though the shell might not be very pretty and the shell might not be very fun to hang out with, the pearl has a glow about it. And so for people living with dementia in the pearl state, the challenge we often have as care partners is that we focus our time on the shell and not on making the connection with that pearl. Because it takes time and effort to make that connection with that pearl. And so it may take a few minutes, it may take some music, it may take some rhythm, it may take familiar scents or familiar voices, or it may take, but that pearl is still in there. And if we give it enough time, that pearl can really glow. So that is kind of a quick overview of progression. And just to show you that I was looking forward to seeing you, and that I didn't know what I was going to be doing today, even if I couldn't find the address, the connection to the Zoom call. And even though I couldn't find how to get on, and then I had mom things, you'll be getting this. I'm going to send this to Lisa, and Lisa's going to send this to you. And it's got some written in, yay, Bridget's happy, yay. And it's got some of this information. So it's got the GEMS approach. I didn't talk about this because I've talked about this in others on this series, but just to kind of emphasize here that when you start seeing changes, it's time to get that baseline evaluation, and that it's complicated. A little bit about diamonds, a little bit about emeralds, a little bit about that empathetic communication, about that start with identifying the feelings and then get some more information and then move from talking to doing something that's connected with what's going on. A little bit about ambers, a little bit with ambers with the with the fine motor changes, emerald rubies with more of the big motor changes with the rubies, a little bit about pearls, and then finally a little bit about how these things connect and progress. And so I added in just a little bit of language to the gems that helps me remember. So I've got the sapphires are living their lives. I've got the diamonds are living in the present. You know, they realize that they're in their home, they're in charge. They realize this is not where my home is. I don't live here. Um, so they realize that in actuality, in reality, the emeralds who are living in the past, who are thinking, I don't live here when it's the place I've lived for 50 years. Um, Living in the past, the ambers are living in the moment, so just not without the past, without the future. The rubies are living in the movement, so they are on or they're off, they're going or they're not. And then the pearls are living inside. So I'll send this to you, and or I won't, because if I'm going to send it to you, you'll never get it. I hate to say it, but I will lie to you. And I won't lie to you on purpose. I'll lie to you in good faith with good intent. And I'll lie to Lisa a little bit, because what I'll do is I'll say, oh, Lisa, I'll send this to you. And then about, I don't know, Lisa, would you say it's half the time or a quarter of the time I actually do it?
Half, at least half you do it, if not more.
So and then Lisa will gently send me an email saying, "Oh, people were so excited about your program. I think they'd really like to get the handout that you promised them." And so Lisa will gently remind me to send it. So I wanted to kind of finish up with this approach, because part of what's true about dementia from both a positive way and a negative way is that it's progressive. And so the reason that's from a positive way is if things aren't going very well, you'll get something different to deal with later. So if what you're trying to get through right now is really hard, there'll be something new in 3 months. So it is progressive. What's hard sometimes is um, people are losing abilities and function. And so when my son was a little boy, little boy, and started to learn to eat, and he learned with his first tools, his fingers, and he was dropping Cheerios all over the place. And I was a first time mom at 40. I was ecstatic. Look at how wonderful his fingers are. He's amazing. I was celebrating so excited. The little dog was celebrating so excited. Oh, he's got fingers that aren't very good. Look, there are Cheerios on the floor. He got more skilled and he was able to use a spoon, not very successful, but still. And so we celebrated because he can use a tool. He's the most brilliant child. The dog is going, yay, he's bad at the tool. There's no yogurt on the floor. And so everybody in my house is happy. He learned to use a fork and a knife and drink, chew with his mouth closed and drink from a cup and not spill. Most of the time he is 19. So, there's always, you never know what's going to happen. But he could do all that stuff. And I celebrated each of those changes. But when people start changing the other way, it's hard to really celebrate, yay, mom can use her fingers when she's eating the creamed potatoes with her fingers in front of the children at Thanksgiving. It's hard to celebrate that, but finding a way to really embrace and to celebrate those preserved abilities is gonna be help you through these changes and through these the hard times. So I put on this slide, um, one of the other thing that's also true about the majority of the things with dementia is there aren't any answers. So some of the questions that people gave is, when is it time to, when should I do this? When should I do that? When should I do the other? And that really very much depends on your person living with dementia. It depends on your resources. It depends on your abilities and your skills. So there isn't really, oh, when they get to be rubies, they should be living in 24-hour care. I mean, I don't know that, because everybody's situation is different. So we can try to do what the next thing is, and do what's right for now, or what's the best thing to try first. But realizing that there are so many variations. Thinking about, is there is does this still make sense? Because maybe what we're doing is we're all taking turns, and mom is going here for a month, and here for a month, and here for a month. And that worked really great. But maybe that's not working for mom right now. So is what we're still doing still right? Is it still the best thing, the right thing, the next thing? What would the next thing be? What should we do differently? And then kind of keeping that in mind, that there's going to probably be a next. And so what's working now is temporary. So let's learn from it. Let's build from it. And let's not be caught off guard when the next thing does happen. That's not gonna, we're not gonna be um, at a loss when I'm the person who does the most of the care, and now I'm in the hospital, and now nobody knows what to do. So to have a backup plan, and to have a next plan, and to be thoughtfully and intentionally thinking, what might be my options, what I might be looking at next. That's why we have other people. We have people like Dee Dee Harris, who her title now includes the word navigator, and I love that title, actually, because it really is about a journey, and it really is about how do we get from here to there. And there might be different ways for different people with different resources and different situations. So I will send this to Lisa, and I'll send this to Lisa will send this to you. And I want to take a pause right now, and see if this is making sense for you. Have you been able to kind of figure out, where is your person living with dementia? Have you, or the people that you spend time with, have you had some sense of when their fluctuations? Most people will fluctuate between 1 and 2 gem states. So if we go back to this one, um, people might fluctuate between, somebody might be a diamond when they're at home in their own situation, and they're well rested, and it's a good time of the day. They might be an emerald when they go to spend the weekend at their daughter's house, because things aren't familiar and things don't make sense. So they might say, well, your dad's going to be worried about me, and dad's been dead for 12 years, and mom's never brought up dad being worried about her before. So, there can be those kinds of fluctuations. The other time when things might really fluctuate are when the person is sick. So if the person, how many of y'all have felt some fluctuations in your gem states recently, because of the pollen? and you're Lisa, I know, and you're just you're not sleeping as well. You're sniffing, you're sneezing, you're coughing, and your energy is just not where it is, and you kind of are on remote, and somebody comes into your office, or somebody comes into your faith community, or somebody comes and says, I've got a great idea for something new we should do, and you go, no way, crap, get out of my face, because you are now a diamond and you can't be flexible and you can't try new things because you don't feel good. And so, not feeling well can change that gem state. The other thing that can really change those gem states, can really cause those fluctuations, are things like changes in environment. So, not being in the place where you usually are. So the person, have any of you ever been in a hotel and had trouble in the bathroom with the shower? You go to turn on the shower and it's a weird configuration, or you have, hot and cold water and they only have one that you turn to one way. Those kinds of things that their environment that can kind of throw you, they can make the person living with dementia lose function and ability and kind of go down to a different level. So I noticed.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you. You have an adorable puppy, Bridget. And I will talk to you all soon in one way or another, okay? Thank you.